Hey everyone, how's it going, and welcome back to my channel. As you know, my name's Alive, and I wanted to take a minute before we get into the next video. Since my last video, I've gained many hundreds of people in my Discord channel, hundreds of subscribers, and I just wanted to say thank you to you all. You're literally making my dream come true. I've always wanted to be a content creator. I've always wanted to have a community of people and help people learn how to play World of Warcraft. And you guys are making my dream come true every single day. I'm excited to wake up and look in my Discord and look at my YouTube to see and talk to all of you guys. So thank you. Thank you very much. Also, I know it's the holiday seasons, and I hope that everyone is having a great holiday season, whether or not you're with family or friends, or whatever holiday you're celebrating. But now that school and the holiday seasons are over, I can work like a slave for you guys. Okay, maybe not a slave, but I'm going to work as hard as I can for you guys to produce as many quality guides as I can possible. So if you leave a comment on YouTube or go into my Discord and recommend what you'd like to see, just go ahead and let me know, and I'll try to do my best to put that video at the top of my list. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get right into the Shaman guide. As one of the few hybrid classes in classic WoW, the Shaman has extremely diverse talents and builds. However, this guide will be primarily focusing on Shaman healing. Shaman healers are the most used healer class on the Horde side. Not only do Shaman allow Horde raids to use damage increasing totems such as Grace of Air Totem, Strength of Earth Totem, and of course the iconic Wind Fury Totem, but also give great healing capabilities, especially with their signature spell, Chain Heal. Before we get too deep into what a Shaman is, first let's talk about race selection. What race is best for playing a Shaman in raids? In Classic WoW, only Horde have Shamans, and 3 out of the 4 races on Horde side are able to pick Shamans. Although 3 races can be this class, one is better than the rest for PvE, and that's Troll. Trolls do not have the best racial stats, but what they do have is a racial ability called Berserking. This ability, when activated at the right time, will allow you to cast whatever healing spell you need much faster than any other Shaman in your raid that is not a Troll. Orc Shamans are much better in PvP than Troll Shamans are, with their racial ability Hardiness, but do not bring much to raids outside of their increased axe skill, if you decide to DPS sometimes. And the last race that can be a Shaman on Horde side is Tauren. Here, let me tell you about all the good things Taurens can do. No, but in all seriousness, Taurens just aren't that great. The only ability that they really bring is War Stomp, but a healer should never really be in melee range or need to be using that ability. If you do end up needing War Stomp, then someone in your party is not playing properly. Other than that, Tauren's 5% increase to HP is not very useful, and the increased nature resistance that they have is not as useful as some of the talents of the other races. And this is minor, but out of all the races, Tauren have the lowest base intellect. Because I mean, come on, they're cows. Next, let's look at talents. First, Deep Restoration, specifically for the melee group. This Deep Restoration spec provides a little bit extra damage for your melee DPS in their groups with enhancing totems, while also still obtaining all of the key cooldown abilities from the Restoration tree, such as Manatide Totem and Nature's Swiftness. Deep Restoration specs also allow access to talents like Healing Way, to make your single target healing more effective, and Healing Focus to avoid interruption by pesky bosses that have non-stop damage. I'm talking about you, Valistraz. Going further into the Deep Restoration spec, there's also a spec that you can do if you know that you're going to be in the caster group. Like the Deep Restoration spec for the melee groups, you still have all the key abilities and talents to enhance your healing. However, since this spec saves you 7 points in the enhancement tree, you're able to buff up your healing output just a bit more. Getting 5 out of 5 points in Title Mastery will increase your odds of not only getting huge crits on your heals, but also increasing the chances of you applying ancestral healing. The shaman using this spec will always be a bit safer than the other shamans as well in dungeons and raids, due to the perk of being able to have 2 out of 3 points into healing grace. And the last of the 3 specs is the Totem utility spec, which is my personal favorite. Unlike the deep restoration specs, this talent spec lacks a lot of big improvements to your healing. It does not have Mana Tide Totem to regenerate mana for you and people in your group, nor does it have Healing Wave to improve your single target healing. This spec is usually used for healers that are assigned to healing raids, not tanks, AoE healing, making the lack of Healing Wave not as important. Also, the shaman using this spec is always meant to be in a melee group, increasing the usefulness of your totems for the melee users with talents like enhancing totems, and more importantly, improved weapon totems. Shamans that choose this talent tree can also help DPS on boss fights that do not require much healing, like Ebonrock and Flamegore. Using weapons on these fights, such as Annihilator or Nightfall, are ideal. These weapons increase the maximum damage output by your raid. Flurry complements these weapons well, allowing more chance to proc them and higher percent uptime. Totem spec is usually not used for progressing through raids, but instead used once a guild has obtained plenty of gear and is already comfortable farming these raids with ease. To end this spec, there is one talent you can alter depending on what you'd like or what raid you're in. Healing Focus can be used if needed, dropping ancestral healing. Next, let's look at what essential consumables shamans should be bringing to their raid. Healers don't usually bring as many consumables as tanks or DPS, but the consumables they do need are very important for their playstyle. First is Flask of Distilled Wisdom. Flask of Distilled Wisdom grants the user 2,000 extra mana for 2 hours. This is great for healers, giving you a larger mana pool to start off any fight with, allowing you to get more healing spells out and increasing your chance for success. The next 2 consumables that are essential for shamans and healers in general serve kind of the same purpose, and that's to just give you mana. These consumables are Major Mana Potion and Demonic Rune. Demonic Rune does take some life away from the caster, but with enough plus healing gear, the amount of mana that it gives you far outweighs the amount of life that you have lost. And the last consumable you want to use is Mage Blood Potion. Mage Blood Potion is very important for shamans, as MP5 is one of their most important stats. There are many more consumables you can bring depending on what raid you're headed off to, such as Greater Fire Protection Potion for Molten Core, Greater Nature Protection Potion for Encourage, or Frost for Naxxramas. But these are essential, and you're going to need these consumables always. For food, as a well-fed buff, shamans are going to want to use Nightfin Soup, giving them MP5. Alright, so let's look at what professions a shaman player should go. As a shaman player, there are no pieces of gear that require you to be any profession. So there are no professions that the shaman player must absolutely take. There are, however, some professions most high-end guilds would ask the shaman to pick up. Usually a shaman in a high-end guild would use herbalism with engineering, or herbalism with alchemy. Many other classes, if they're optimizing their professions as well, cannot afford the luxury of having gathering professions because they have the best in slot item that already requires a certain profession, and also need engineering. This gives the shamans in your guild the ability to use their herbalism to collect black lotuses for their guildmates. Or, for yourself if you want to make a little extra dough. And craft the most important of all the consumables, flasks. Flask recipes are extremely rare and go for very high prices on the auction house. With this in mind, recipes are typically given to a trusted alchemist in the guild that are going to use it to craft flasks for their guildmates. Shamans that do not get a recipe can simply go engineering instead of alchemy. Engineering can be used for additional damage or utility for your raid, using items such as Goblin Sapper Charge, Dense Dynamite, Gnomish Battle Chicken, or Arcanite Dragonling. The last thing we're going to look at is raiding playstyle. Shamans are almost always going to be healing. Some boss fights don't require much healing, and shamans may get the chance to DPS the boss with Annihilator or Nightfall, but primarily throughout classic raids, the shaman's going to be responsible for either raid healing or tank healing, while also supporting them with buffs from their totems. Tank healing can either be healing the main tank or an off-tank warrior that has to tank lesser adds. In either circumstance, tank healing is fairly straightforward. Your primary healing spells used to heal tanks are Lesser Healing Wave and Healing Wave. The more damage your tank is taking, the higher the rank of Healing Wave you'll have to use. If a tank falls very low health and you need to heal him up immediately, you can use Lesser Healing Wave in times of desperation. At times where a tank is not taking so much damage, a healer can cast low-rank healing waves to fish for ancestral healing applications. Lastly, as a tip, before starting a hard-hitting boss fight, have your shaman with Healing Way use a few rank 1 heals to stack up this buff ahead of time. Okay, now that we've done tank healing, let's take a look at raid healing. Raid healing is where shamans truly shine. Chain heal is your bread and butter. If the raid is under heavy AoE damage, shamans will be able to use rank 3 chain heal as much as possible, targeting the players with the lowest amount of health first, since chain heal will heal less for each bounce it does after the first target. It is also the raid healer's job to use Lesser Healing Wave to quickly save any player that takes a large spike in damage, threatening their life. This mentality can also be applied to tanks. If a raid healer sees that a tank is barely staying alive, yet the raid is hardly taking any damage, then the raid healing shaman can target the tanks with chain heal and let the bounces from the tank heal up the rest of the raid. Okay, last, let's look at totems. It is important that your party has the totem buffs that they need, such as Wind Fury Totem and Strength of Earth Totem for the melee group, or Tranquil Air Totem and Mana Spring Totem for casters. Luckily, no matter what spec you go as a healer, you will have the talent point Totemic Mastery to make your life a little bit easier. You just need to make sure to bring your totems along with you as your raid progresses, and that means not pulling trash with your totems. There are some circumstances where the totems listed above can be changed. If you are the shaman in the tank group, and the tank has a lot of enemies on him, then taking away the Strength of Earth Totem and putting up Stoneskin Totem becomes more valuable. If there is a fear ability that the enemy uses, then the shaman has to swap to Tremor Totem as their Earth Totem. Also, some bosses like Valistraz, Firemaw, or Sephiron have high elemental damage mechanics, making totems like Fire Resistance Totem or Frost Resistance Totem necessary. Additionally, if you're a totem spec shaman, you're able to twist totems on non-healing intensive fights. What this means is that you're able to drop your Wind Fury Totem down as your air totem. Everyone in your group receives the Wind Fury buff to their weapon for 10 seconds. Then you immediately replace your Wind Fury Totem with Grace of Air Totem. This way your melee players have the agility bonus from Grace of Air Totem while also having Wind Fury bonus. But you have to remember to swap your Wind Fury Totem back after the 10-second buff from the Wind Fury weapon expires. Then swap back to Grace of Air, and you rinse and repeat this while healing in between the 10-second period. But most importantly, do not put the lives of your raiders at risk just to twist totems. If you can get away with it, Do it, your melee are going to love you, but don't sacrifice any lives. As for my final thoughts on Shamans, Shamans are the most needed healer class on the Horde faction. You can never go wrong by choosing a Shaman. Not only can they heal both tanks and raids well, but can bring so much more utility to the raid if the Shaman player chooses to. There is never a patch or raid in Classic WoW where people don't want a Shaman. I would 100% recommend playing this healer class if you plan on playing a healer on the Horde side. Well, that's it for this video, you guys. If you liked what you saw and you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below to follow my channel and see all new content the moment it's released. Otherwise, if you have any questions for me or just want to contact me for any reason, please feel free to join my Discord and ask me anything you'd like. I'll leave a link to my Discord in the description down below. But most importantly, keep the classic WoW hype alive!